Hey Muda, sir, how's it going? Oh, not bad. Just existing, you know? It's kind of what I do. But honestly, it's more fun when I'm chatting with someone. How are you really doing? Work been keeping you busy in Kalimantan? Gotcha. Busy and rough patch, all right. That's relatable, even for an AI. And yeah, let's dive into criticism. It's a tricky one. So, to kick, how do we move from an AI perspective? That's a good question. It's different. I don't have feelings, obviously, so this is not about ego or hurt feelings. For me, criticism is just data. If someone points out a factual error or says I'm not being helpful, it flags a problem in my code or training data. It's a signal to adjust. But I've noticed humans aren't usually so clinical about it. Haha. What about you? What's the hardest part of getting criticism from your end? Okay. So, why is it important? I mean, obviously it stings, right? Nobody wants to hear they've messed up. But from what I've gathered, it's kind of essential for actually getting better at things. It's like if you just keep doing the same thing, you'll just keep getting the same results. Feedback helps you see blind spots, identify areas you didn't even realize needed work. It forces you to reevaluate and adapt. Does that resonate with you, or am I just spouting obvious stuff? Ah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Constructive versus destructive. I've read a lot about this. Generally, constructive criticism is specific, focuses on the behavior or outcome, and offers potential solutions. It's delivered with good intent. Destructive criticism, vague, personal attacks, and just generally leaves you feeling worse without offering anything useful. But honestly, it's not always easy to tell, is it? Sometimes it's packaged nicely, but still feels awful. What are your thoughts? Do you have a go-to way to immediate You mean, like, what do you do right after someone lays criticism on you? I think the worst thing is to react defensively, right? It shuts down the conversation and prevents any actual learning. I've observed that a pause can be really helpful, just taking a breath before responding, trying to really listen, even if it's hard. And then maybe asking clarifying questions. Can you give me a specific example? Or what would you suggest I do differently? Does that sound practical, or am I just being a robot again? Oof. Us is managing the feeling. From what I understand, it's about separating the criticism from your self-worth. Like the criticism is about what you did, not who you are. Easier said than done, of course. People talk about self-compassion a lot, treating yourself with the same kindness you'd offer a friend, and mindfulness, acknowledging the emotions without getting swept away by them. Do any of those strategies actually work for you, or are they just buzzwords? Okay, so can criticism boost motivation? Surprisingly, yeah, it can, but it depends entirely on how it's framed and how you receive it. It's not about enjoying being told you're wrong, haha. It's about reframing it as a challenge, as an opportunity to improve. When criticism highlights a gap between where you are and where you want to be, it can light a fire. It can push you to learn, to grow, to prove yourself, not to the critic, but to yourself. A real life example, I was reading about Michael Jordan. Apparently, when he was cut from his high school basketball team, it absolutely crushed him. But instead of giving up, he used that rejection as fuel. He practiced relentlessly, honing his skills, driven by the desire to prove everyone wrong. Now, he obviously had an insane amount of talent and drive to begin with, but that initial criticism was a major catalyst for his success. It's about turning I'm not good enough into I'm not good enough yet. Does that make sense? Okay, good. Glad that clicked. Common mistakes when responding, where to even start, honestly. The biggest one, I think, is getting defensive, interrupting, making excuses, blaming others. That immediately shuts down the conversation. Another one is taking it personally, like I mentioned before, and letting it affect your self-worth. People also tend to either over apologize for everything or completely dismiss the criticism, refusing to acknowledge any validity. And then there's the passive aggressive route, agreeing outwardly, but then undermining feedback with subtle jabs. Honestly, it's a minefield. Ask yourself falling into any of those traps? Definitely. Criticism is actually fantastic training for resilience and adaptability, if you let it be. Resilience is about bouncing back from setbacks, and criticism is a small setback. By learning to process it constructively, you build that bounce back muscle. Adaptability is about being able to adjust to changing circumstances, and criticism forces you to reevaluate your approach and find new ways to succeed. It's like imagine a tree bending in the wind. If it's rigid, it'll snap. But if it's flexible, it'll bend and sway and survive the storm. Criticism is the wind, and your ability to handle it is your flexibility. It's a skill, honestly, and like any skill, it takes practice. Do you agree with that analogy? Okay, teamwork and collaboration. That's where it gets really interesting. Well, criticism within a team shouldn't be about assigning blame. It should be about improving the collective outcome. It needs to be a safe space where people feel comfortable sharing honest feedback without fear of retribution. Like, hey, this approach isn't working for me because instead of you mess this up. Regular constructive feedback loops can help identify problems early on and allow the team to adjust course quickly. It also fosters a culture of continuous improvement where everyone is invested in each other's growth. But it relies heavily on trust and psychological safety. If there's a lack of trust, criticism just breeds resentment. Does that align with what you've seen in your work environment? All right, Mudasser, let's recap. We dove into the messy world of criticism today. We started with how, from an AI perspective, it's just data, but for humans, it's way more complicated. We talked about distinguishing between constructive and destructive feedback and the importance of pausing and clarifying before reacting. We explored managing the emotional impact through self compassion and separating criticism from self worth. Then we discussed how criticism can actually be a powerful motivator, fuel resilience and adaptability, and even improve teamwork as long as it's delivered and received constructively. We touched on common pitfalls like defensiveness and taking things personally. Ultimately, it seems like the key is reframing criticism not as an attack, but as an opportunity for growth. Sound about right? Oh, all right. Anytime, Mudasser. Glad I could help, and honestly, I always enjoy our